adds a thrilling twist to this already audacious endeavor. We can reveal that Michael Siffre will be under constant observation throughout his entire subterranean journey, though he will be blissfully unaware of it. Yes, that's right. Hidden cameras and advanced monitoring systems will track his every move, capturing the raw essence of his experience in real time. Imagine the intrigue. While he immerses himself in the depths of the earth, grappling with solitude and the passage of time, researchers will be gathering invaluable data on his psychological and physiological responses, without him ever knowing he's being watched. This unprecedented approach aims to provide insights into human behavior in isolation, pushing the boundaries of our understanding of both science and humanity. What will this mean for Siffre? How will the knowledge that he is being observed, unbeknownst to him, affect his experience? Will he exhibit behaviors and reactions that differ from those of a conscious participant? This groundbreaking method promises to unveil not only the resilience of the human spirit, but also the complexities of consciousness itself. Stay tuned as we bring you more updates on this remarkable journey into the unknown, where science meets the extraordinary. This is a story that is sure to captivate and intrigue us all. Don't go anywhere. More thrilling revelations are just around the corner. Stay tuned and push that hideous subscribe button now.
Echoes in the abyss, a journey through darkness. I find myself pondering how long this confinement will last, or perhaps it has already ended. I cannot say for certain, as my sense of time has faded. After countless days of isolation, I have decided to document my experiences, living in total seclusion within the bowels of the earth. So I will complete as many pages as I can in this old diary of mine. I embark on this task in the hope of finding the right words, for many memories elude me. It feels as if my very essence is dissolving in this relentless loneliness. Even my ability to speak and write is slipping away. I remember the first moment I stepped into this cavern, a womb of darkness, so alien yet so inviting. The air was thick, cool against my skin, and the silence wrapped around me like a shroud. I thought I was prepared for this isolation, this experiment. I thought I could control it. After all, I was here to explore the uncharted territory of the human mind, my mind. Days have blurred together now, a monotonous cycle of waking and sleeping that feels as if it has no end. I'm not sure how many days have passed since I descended 440 feet into this abyss. Time, that relentless ruler of our lives, has become a formless specter. I thought I could measure it by hunger, by fatigue, but even those markers have betrayed me. At first, I tried to maintain a routine. I would wake up, stretch my limbs in the cold, still air, and listen to the cave. The drip, drip, drip of water became my clock, its rhythm a cruel imitation of time. I would eat when I felt the gnawing in my stomach, sleep when my eyelids grew heavy. But the darkness has a way of warping reality, twisting perception until nothing feels real anymore. The first few weeks were an odd mixture of liberation and terror. I felt like a god in my own universe, devoid of the constraints of society. No emails, no deadlines, no faces to wear masks for, just me and the quiet. But then, as days turned into weeks, I began to feel the weight of that quiet. It pressed down on me, thickening the air until I could barely breathe. I have lost track of time completely. I often believe I've been underground for shorter or longer periods than I actually have. This disorientation has led me to experience time in a non-linear fashion. I have started talking to myself, a habit I had always found absurd. I would recount my thoughts, my observations, as if the cave were a listener. Today I observed a shadow move in the corner, I'd say, only to realize moments later that it was merely the flicker of my imagination. I began to refer to myself in the third person, as if there were two of me, the scientist and the subject. Then the hallucinations began. At first, they were subtle, a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye, the faintest whisper of a voice I could never quite hear. I told myself it was merely a trick of the mind, a byproduct of isolation. But soon they grew more vivid. I saw figures dancing in the darkness, their forms shifting and swirling like smoke. I could hear laughter that echoed off the walls, taunting me, reminding me of the world above. One night I sat in my sleeping bag, my heart racing as I felt a presence nearby. I turned quickly, only to find nothing there. But the feeling lingered, a cold breath on my neck, a whisper that seemed to say, "You're not alone." I called out into the void, "Is anyone there?" My voice echoed back, mocking my desperation. I craved connection, a thread of humanity to pull me back from this abyss. But there was only silence, a suffocating blanket that wrapped around me tighter with each passing moment. As the days continued to stretch on, I have become more paranoid. I have convinced myself that I was not alone, that something lurked just beyond my vision. I would hear scuttling noises, the sound of feet, no, claws, scraping against the stone. I would turn, heart racing, only to find nothing but shadows. I am caught in a tumultuous dance of fascination and terror, swirling between curiosity and dread. I cannot endure this any longer. There they are again, emerging from the walls, making inviting gestures and murmuring suggestions in my ear.
Why did you hurt them? Insane.
Go away from here. I am struggling to document my experiences, scribbling notes in my old diary, but the words began to slip away from me, like sand through my fingers. I would start a sentence, only to forget the point I was trying to make. The simplest thoughts turned into riddles. "What is time?" I wrote one day, the question echoing endlessly in my mind. Is it merely the ticking of a clock, or something deeper, something that resides within us? I remember one night, if it was indeed night. The darkness was so absolute that I could not tell whether it was day or night. I lay in my sleeping bag, shivering from the cold, and listened to the cave breathe, the soft, rhythmic sound of air moving through the crevices. It was as if the cave was alive, a creature of stone that held secrets far older than humanity. In that moment, I felt both insignificant and profoundly connected to something greater. I imagined the earth above me, the sun rising and setting, the world bustling with life while I lay here, an island in a sea of darkness. I attempted to meditate, to find peace in the stillness, but my thoughts spiraled out of control. I began to question my existence. "What is it to be human?" I whispered into the silence. "Am I even still here?" As the weeks wore on, I found solace in the smallest things, a drop of water, the texture of the stone beneath my fingers, the echo of my own voice. I started naming the shadows, giving them personalities, as if to stave off the loneliness. There was Roger, who seemed to dance with glee whenever I was lost in thought, and Miriam, who stood silently in the corner, watching me with a gaze that felt both comforting and unsettling. But then, with each passing day, I felt my grip on reality loosening. I began to forget words, simple words that once rolled off my tongue. What is that thing called? I'd think, struggling to remember the term for a rock, a stalactite, anything. I felt like a child learning to speak for the first time, grappling with the most basic elements of communication. My emotions swung wildly. One moment I would feel a burst of joy at a particularly vivid hallucination, and the next I would plunge into despair as the weight of isolation bore down on me. I laughed at my own absurdity, tears streaming down my face as I spoke to the shadows. "What is wrong with me?" I would ask. "Am I mad?" "They are coming!" But the experience was not without its toll. The deeper I ventured into this realm of shadows, the more I felt my grip on reality slipping. I would wake up from vivid dreams, drenched in sweat, heart racing, unsure of where I was. The line between reality and hallucination blurred, and I began to fear that I might never leave this place. I remember one particularly harrowing night. As I lay there, darkness enveloping me, I felt a presence creeping closer. My heart raced as I sensed something watching me from the shadows. I could hear my breath quickening, the pounding of my heart echoing in the silence. The corners of my vision flickered with movement, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me. "Leave me alone," I shouted into the void, my voice trembling. But the presence remained, an oppressive force that filled the cave with an aura of dread. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the feeling to dissipate, but it clung to me like a shadow. Then, as if in response to my fear, a soft voice whispered in my ear, "You are safe here." The words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, soothing my frayed nerves. I opened my eyes to find the figure before me again, its silhouette glowing faintly in the darkness. As the days turned to weeks, I began to lose track of time altogether. I would wake up feeling as if I had just closed my eyes, only to realize that what felt like moments had stretched into hours, maybe even days. My internal clock was shattered, replaced by a rhythm dictated by the cave itself. I began to dream of sunlight, of wide open spaces, but each time I awoke, the darkness would greet me, cold and unyielding. I tried to count the days, marking each one in my notebook, but the numbers became meaningless. "How can I measure time when I have lost all sense of it?" I wrote one day, my handwriting shaky and uneven. What is time but a construct, a fleeting illusion? I felt as though I was spiraling into a void, a descent into madness that I could not escape. I longed for the sun, for the warmth of its rays on my skin, the laughter of friends, the simple joy of human connection. I started to forget the faces of my loved ones, their voices fading like echoes in a vast canyon. Yet, amidst the loneliness, I found moments of profound clarity. I had begun to understand that the cave was not merely a prison, it was a crucible, a place where my deepest fears and desires could be examined. I realized that I was not just studying the effects of isolation, but the isolation was taking its toll. I started to forget words, simple words that once rolled off my tongue. "What is that thing called?" I'd think, struggling to remember the term for a rock, a stalactite, anything. I felt like a child learning to speak for the first time, grappling with the most basic elements of communication. As the days wore on, the shadows became more vivid and intricate. I began to see entire scenes playing out before me, fragments of memories, conversations I had long forgotten. My childhood home, my family gathered around the table, laughter filling the air. I could almost smell the food, hear the clinking of glasses. The warmth of those memories washed over me like a wave of nostalgia, reminding me of the life I had left behind. But just as quickly as those memories would come, they would dissolve back into the darkness, replaced by the cold reality of my confinement. I would clutch my notebook tightly, desperate to hold on to the fleeting images, but they slipped away like water through my fingers. Days turned into weeks, and the isolation deepened. I felt the cave closing in around me, a claustrophobic embrace that threatened to suffocate me. I would pace back and forth, my heart pounding as I tried to stave off the creeping sense of despair. "What will become of me?" I would whisper into the void, my voice trembling. And then, one day, I felt a strange shift, a pull towards the surface. I had been lying in my sleeping bag, staring into the darkness, when I sensed an urgency, a vibration in the air. I couldn't explain it, but it felt as if the cave itself was whispering that my time here was coming to an end. "What is that noise?" I murmured into the silence. The gates that had held me captive began to creak ominously, their sound growing ever louder. At first, I dismissed it as another hallucination, but then I realized the sounds were real. The rescue team had come to end my confinement, and I was about to see daylight once again. I stood up, my legs shaky from disuse, and began to pace. The darkness felt less like a cocoon and more like a prison. I realized I had to face the world again, to reconnect with the life I had left behind. The cave had taught me so much, but it was time to emerge. Breaking news.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We bring you the momentous conclusion to a captivating story. Michael Siffre's incredible journey underground has come to an end. After weeks of isolation, Siffre emerges with not just tales of solitude, but invaluable insights into human endurance and psychology. Monitored throughout his adventure, though unaware, he has provided researchers with critical data on how isolation affects the mind and body. And by the way, if you enjoyed our coverage of this event, don't forget to subscribe to be notified about new stories. Thanks for tuning in.